Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. Paul Bunyan was a giant lumberjack. He stood 63 axe handles high. Give or take a handle when Paul shouted timber and swung his axe. 100 trees would fall. Back in Paul's day, America was growing fast and people needed wood to build houses and towns. Farmers need wild land clear so they could grow crops. Paul showed an early talent for knocking down trees. As a baby, he rolled over in his sleep one night and knocked down a mile of Maine forest. He always knew he'd be a lumberjack, and soon it was time to go to follow his dream. I'm off to the North Woods, he told his parents. Good luck, son, they said. Watch your step. Paul got a job at logging camp. Chopping down trees was easy, but he wished he had someone to help him haul the log to the river. Then came the winter of the blue snow. Beautiful blue snow fell for days. Paul came across a snowdrift as a house with two hairy blue ears sticking out of it. Moo! It softly bellowed. Paul lifted those ears, and out came a sickly baby ox that had been stuck in the snow. The ox was blue all over from the cold. Paul brought the ox back to the camp and cared for him all night. In the morning, the ox was feeling better, but he stayed blue. He licked Paul on the neck. Paul laughed. I'll call you Babe, he said. They went off to Michigan, where Paul set up his own logging camp. Babe grew like crazy and soon was so big that folks could hardly see him end to end. None of the local watering holes were big enough for Babe to drink from. Paul solved that puzzle by using his axe to dig the Great Lakes. Paul's logging camp was filled with hundreds of lumberjacks. They were a hungry bunch, and their favorite food was pancake. More pancakes, they called, but the cook couldn't make enough. Short off Sam, the chief cook, feared that the men would quit if they didn't get more pancake. Don't worry, Sam, I've solved this, Paul said. Paul sat and thought about the problem a while. Then he and Babe disappeared. About a week later, Babe returned to camp pulling an iron griddle. That griddle was a mile wide and an inch. Paul had to build it in the city. When Sam saw the griddle, his eye nearly popped out of his head. Now we're cooking, he cried. Paul ordered a fire built under the griddle. Babe, eager to help, drank all the water out of a lake. The cook used the empty lake bed as a bowl to mix the batter in. Men strapped slabs of bacon onto their boots and skate around the griddle. When it was all greased up, the cooks poured their batter. Soon 500,000 pancakes were tumbling on the griddle. There was even a pine-like syrup going straight to the tables. The lumberjack was finally happy, and no one ever quit Paul's camp. Those pancakes were too good. Then the logging was done in one spot. Paul simply lifted the camp onto wheels, and Babe pulled it into a new place. One time they sat down at their camp next to a twisty river in Wisconsin. That river was so crooked that the log the lumberjack sent floating down would end up in an awful jam. For weeks at that time, the sawmills downriver were waiting for logs that never came. Paul sat picking his teeth with a pine tree. Though he thought about the problem, Paul had all his blacksmith forged a giant chain. He hooked one end of the chain to Babe's harness and the other ends a twist in the river. "Pull, Babe," he commanded, and Babe pulled. Sweet port of Babe pulled. The river wouldn't budge. "Harder," Paul said. Babe grunted and pulled harder. The muscle on his neck stood out like tree roots. His leg dug in the earth, and his belly nearly touched the ground, but that old river was as crooked as ever. Then Paul saw the bend in the river give a shiver. "It's working," he cried. Babe let out a bellow that was heard as the way to Kansas. He gave him a mighty tug, causing the river to snap like a whip. Then, with a crack, it lay straight as a flagpole. Everyone cheered. Paul stuck out his chest with pride so much that his buttons popped out of his shirt. Paul and Babe went to do many more great things. Then they were last seen working in the vast wilderness of Alaska. Folks up there say they still sometimes heard a mighty voice in the woods calling out "Timber," followed by a rumbling moo.
Good job! Practice makes perfect.